Church hurts. Why church hurts? You know, we hear.
Regardless of what I'm going through, God has actually got my back.
Yeah.
So I'm a technical one.
Well, so you don't speak it.
Nah,
Technical difficulty. Yeah.
Time, prayer, lots of prayer.
Hi, friends.
I'm Nana.
I'm Bree.
I'm Sandra.
And you're welcome to
Faith and Friends podcast.
So we are from the Piccadilly PIWC Church based here in Manchester. And as young people in the church, we meet here on this podcast to talk all things faith, lifestyle, and culture.
Every week, we invite a friend to have these conversations with us. And we hope that as you listen, it inspires you to start these conversations with your friends as well.
So join us on this journey as we explore all these topics, get a friend on board, and don't forget to follow us on our socials.
Make sure you follow us.
Stay tuned.
Hi, friends.
Hi, friends.
Welcome back. Welcome back to episode 3. I hope you're excited. Today, we are talking about a very deep topic.
Yeah.
We're talking about church hurt. It's very deep. And disclaimer, as we talk about this conversation, we just want to unpack church hurt in a way that will benefit both those that have experienced it, those that are currently experiencing it, and also if you've never experienced it, if you're a member in the church, for you to like kind of analyze, you know, the church culture in your church and also see what you can do to support those that may be going through it and also prevent it in the church. So as you can see, today we have another visiting friend.
Okay.
Woo, woo, woo. So, hey friend,
Hello.
how do you do?
I do very well. How do you do?
I do
And
very
you,
well
and
too.
you.
Great, thank
Why
you.
do I feel like everyone's changing their accent now? Hello, friends.
So
Nah, just
no,
the
he's
energy,
the
though.
king's. He speaks the king's English. He is
Yeah.
Mr.
Oh,
King's
Can we
English.
actually
give us
relax
a bit of
on
that. Give us a
Nah,
bit of
I just
that.
speak
Yeah.
English. I don't claim it, but I speak
Mr.
English.
King's English.
Fantastic.
Mr.
you.
King's English. Introduce yourself. Who is you?
Okay, great. So my name is Enoch. God's blessed me recently. I started working in tech.
Come on now.
Where the money
Thank
is
you,
at?
thank you,
Come
thank
on
you.
now.
We'll come in with that one. Something interesting, I guess. I speak German as well, to be fair. So
Okay.
it's a bit
Say a
of
little bit.
difference.
Let's make sure you're not lying.
Guten Tag.
Wie geht's dir?
Is that what's that? Well, now we can't even tell if you're lying. You know.
Yeah, German
Anyway.
people, please fact check that thing.
Nah,
You-
check it. I know what I said.
What do you say?
Is that how we?
Okay, say the Faith and Friends podcast is the best
Yeah, that's
podcast
a
in
bit
the
hard.
world.
Ever.
That's a bit of a technical one. I can't-
Well, so you don't speak it.
Nah,
Technical difficulty.
Okay, do you know what? Okay, cool. I don't speak it.
He
I'm not
speaks
German.
German. He's German. So I have a question for you.
Talk to me.
Please pick a number between 1 and 5.
Can I go with 6?
He is always so controversial.
Okay, nah,
this is
okay.
why you're here today.
All right, okay, 2.
Okay, 2. So my question for you is, if you had to describe your life using one movie title, what
I
would
like
it
that.
be?
Whoa.
A movie title.
Yeah.
First of all, who said I watch films like that? Let me think. Ooh.
Nazine, what would the title
Oh,
of your
oh.
life
The
be?
movie.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
got it.
Oh.
We did a movie
Okay,
on your
okay.
life. What would the
Okay.
title be?
I got it now.
Ah.
Mm.
Uh-huh.
Do I have to do that today?
The title is Do I Have to Do That Today?
Do I have to do that today?
Wow.
Why?
I want to unpack this.
Yeah.
Unpack it for a
No,
second.
because the thing is, I can't lie. Recently, there's a lot of things that I've had to do, and my
Yeah.
motto and my main go-to is, am I actually going to do this today? If not, I will sleep. Simple. Do I have to do this today?
It's giving soft life. I approve this message.
Thank you.
I approve
maybe he's
this
giving
message.
productivity as well. 'cause
Yeah, no, I still work.
I
I,
mean,
still
there's-
work.
you get it done, but is it essential?
Does it have to be today?
Mm.
Can be
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Does it have to come
not
in between
important.
my
Do you guys
sleep?
know that graph?
Yeah.
Urgent, not important.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
anyway. That's not
Doesn't
what we're
always
talking
work, but yeah. But yeah, so do I have to do it today? We have to talk about church hurt today. So let's get into it. So,
about. You have to.
church hurts. Why church hurts? You know, we hear pop culture, social media, you go on, everyone is talking about their church hurt stories. Leaders did this to me. This happened to me. Members did this to me. I've left the church because of this. I am hurt. The church has hurt me. And, you know, when you read in the words, the church is not meant to be a place of hurt. So, like, where is the divide here? How did we get here that, you know, the church in the 21st century is hurt? You know, how did we get here? What is church hurt? How do we actually identify church hurt? So Can
Man,
we
that's
start
like
from-
15 questions in one
So
time.
this is what we want to talk about.
Relax.
This is what we want to
we
talk
just
about
got
today.
here.
No, I'm just giving you questions.
Yeah.
Now, let's reel it back in.
Mm-hmm.
What is church hurt? Have you experienced it? How do you define it?
Is this a question? Oh,
Do
I'm
you want to
looking
go
at
for
you.
it? No,
I'm
you
looking
go
at
for
you.
it. You go for it.
I guess for me, church hurt would probably be, the association of some level of pain that you may have incurred within the vicinity. Sorry, the vicinities.
Yeah.
Of church, really, and that can go to the actual building. I don't know why you'd be for building, but predominantly like the people that you
Yeah.
fellowship with as well.
Mhm.
And it's tough, I guess, because it's like, how are you supposed to actively grow when you're coming to a place and all it does is just hurt you every time?
That is deep.
Yeah. Now, I think just reflecting on that, perhaps if your motive of going to a church is to get healing, and you eventually, get hurt,
Yeah.
then it's like it's really the opposite of why you
Exactly.
actually
Yeah.
joined the place. So if the church is supposed to be a safe space for you,
Mhm.
and over time, the people that say they love you, the people that say they represent this God called Jesus Christ, and they don't end up reflecting that nature of Jesus Christ to you,
Yeah.
then it becomes an issue of, whoa, is this really the right place for me?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it can come in different forms,
Yeah.
abuse of power,
Yeah.
it just comes in different forms and different there are different levels to it, right? To the
Yeah.
pain. That's what I
Mhm,
mean.
yeah.
Like some people, it's just a friction between members. For some people,
Yeah.
it's that. For some people, it's really, the fact that they trusted this person that goes up on stage to preach every Sunday,
Leadership,
and
yeah.
that same person ends up doing something that is very opposite to what they talk about
preach.
every
Yeah.
Sunday. So it's very different for everyone. And like you said, I love what you said in the beginning. It's a very sensitive topic.
Yeah.
So, we acknowledge your pain. We just want to say that we acknowledge your pain and we're not taking that for granted.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Anything to add?
Man, they've literally said everything. I think the main thing that really hit me was, this is meant to be the safe space.
Yeah.
We see the church as a sanctuary where we're going
Yeah.
for protection. This is meant to be where I'm safe. And obviously, if the hurt incurs, whether between members or from the leaders, then it really does have an impact
Yeah.
on you as a person as well as on your faith, I suppose. Because I
100%.
think it's really kind of easy to associate, the church obviously to Christ. So if the church has hurt me, then in some way it impacts a relationship with God as well. But yeah, I think that's all I can really say. I think the biggest thing for me, at least when it comes to church hurt, is really having to learn to be able to separate God from the
The
church.
church. Yeah.
God's character is not the same as the church
Yeah.
that I'm going through. Obviously, we're meant to emulate him in the church. We're meant to emulate his character in the church, but it's really acknowledging that we are human beings, and we will fall short, whether we like it or we will
Yeah.
fall short.
Come
So it's
on now.
honestly being able to separate the two in a sense and be like, just because person A has hurt me doesn't mean that God is gonna hurt me or God isn't there for me. So it's really, I think, important for us to be able to separate the two, because so that when you're if you experience church, I mean, we pray you don't experience it, but if you do, then it's not like you're running away from God as well.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, 100%. I think it makes sense. And when someone experiences that, a number of things can happen. But just touching on what you said, the person, even if the person is able to separate the hurt from God, they might end up going into a space where they say, I can see God by myself, which is also
Yeah,
dangerous,
I was
Yeah.
right?
gonna get to
Yeah.
that.
Do you know what I mean?
was
Like,
gonna
it's
get to that.
also
Yeah.
dangerous
Yeah.
to say
Yeah,
that
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
going to, and we have a lot of people like
Yeah.
that.
We have
because
a lot of
I'm not going to go
yeah.
back to the place where I found hurt. I got hurt. So I can see God by myself in my room.
Yeah.
And this Christianity journey
need
cannot be done
community.
alone.
Yeah.
And it is the perfect spot for the devil,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
he's going to thrive on that hurt that you
Isolation.
have.
Yeah.
Put you away from other people, divide and conquer, right?
Yes.
If you put them away, it's easier to attack one person than to attack
Exactly.
Yeah.
a bunch of people. So it's also a dangerous spot to be in. If you start saying that I can see God by myself without the need of a church.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're gonna say something, Eno?
Yeah, I was
No,
gonna say,
I
you
was
wanted
just
to
going
say
to say,
something.
really, I appreciate the point that you were making, but I feel like it's easier said than done first and foremost.
True,
But
true.
especially when, the church hurt that you're experiencing is from someone that perhaps is on the leadership team,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
essentially that in itself, how can you differentiate, what's man and what's Christ when these people are God ordained and
Yeah.
supposed to
Yeah.
bring you into Christ as well?
Right.
So I guess my question would just be like, how would you counteract that then?
Yeah, I don't think there's much to counteract in the sense of it is difficult. Like I'm never saying that it is easy, especially when someone who is a position of leadership, because you have more responsibility as a leader, like to actually represent Christ and make sure that you are doing a good job as a shepherd, I suppose, in taking care of the sheep that God has entrusted you with. I think the main thing for me is just really being able to get into that space to acknowledge that even your leaders are human beings. Even though they're God ordained, they still have fault. They're not perfect. So regardless, like, yes, they have higher responsibility. Yes, they should be held accountable. However, they're still human beings. And I suppose that makes it harder. And it might take some time. So even me saying being able to like separate God's character from the church, as someone who has in some sort of shape experienced church hurt, it took me years, like years of literally just feeling like, oh Lord, like I don't want to go back to this place anymore. These people hurt me here and there. And it literally, I feel like the more I kind of drew closer to Christ and the more I got to know him, the more I was able to kind of separate the two aspects. But it was years of work, prayers, and even just friends, I suppose, just kind of like speaking life into me and just encouraging me to be like, hey, don't give up. Perhaps if this doesn't work for you, why don't you try, something else? Or literally not making sure that, as you were saying, that I'm not in that place of isolation where the devil is just easily going to be able to attack you. So I think, like to just kind of summarize, it's work, perhaps some people it takes some months, but some of us, it took us years.
No, I mean everyone's gonna take. You can put times
time,
to
yeah.
these things.
Yeah.
On these things. But I mean, just to speak from the perspective of a leader, a lot of leaders also go through church hurt.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was
100%.
gonna say that.
Do you get it? Like the leader's position is a bit controversial because sometimes when you're in that position of leadership, it might be harder for you to say, "I'm leaving the church." Because there's a
You've
lot
got
that you have to.
responsibility.
I'm not saying that leaders don't end up leaving. We've seen a lot of leaders leave the church, obviously. But a member is like you've not. If I to put it literally, you've not got skin in the game. And what I mean by that is there isn't so much that you're doing on a daily basis as a member compared to your pastor. Now I'm not going to compare the pain. Obviously, that's two
Pain
different
is
things.
pain.
But pastors, when you end up speaking to them, you know that they're going through a lot as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's not something that makes it to the highlights of social media. It's usually the members that you always hear the side of members. So when I hear pastors speak about their pain, I'm like, well, we need to also
Go
acknowledge
through
that
Yeah.
people in leadership also go through a lot. But as a leader, sometimes you're tempted to be very silent about the pain that you go through because you soldier on.
You have to
You
protect.
soldier on.
You have
like,
to protect the
know-
face of the church that you go and stand in front of.
Precisely.
You can't just come and stand on the pulpit and just start, you did this to me.
You
and
did this, you did it.
And you did that,
A,
and I did not like that.
Sister C.
I
No,
think
maybe we should have one Sunday where we allow the pastor to vent. And y'all gonna know.
safe space.
You're
Safe
gonna
space.
know what your pastors go through, or your
I think
leaders go through.
For that though, I think it's in general, it's a
Yeah.
lack of conversations because on what you were saying that sometimes it's very hard. I think what is missing sometimes is the fact that we don't necessarily think that this is a hospital and we are all hurt in some way, shape, or form. We are not perfect, and we say hurt people.
Right.
And I think when we go into the church, sometimes we have this expectation of this over expectation of this is a place of God. So I'm not expecting to be hurt. And I think we talk a lot about the early church, and that was the ideal church. But really and truly,
Was it? I'm sure they also had their own.
exactly that's
probably
what I was
had
gonna
their
say.
here and there.
Really and truly, what we don't get from the scriptures is the background. You don't know what was going on. I'm sure that there was, some sort of pain. And that comes with every relationship. And I think it's being open to having those conversations. Yes, we are not expecting pastors to come and, blast everyone on a Sunday. But I think it's starting those conversations. So I just wanted to ask, like, in your experience, have you ever been able to start those conversations? Like, if you've ever experienced church hurt, if you ever breached that topic with someone that has hurt you or a member as well.
Everyone's looking at you.
I love how we're all looking at him.
I'm thinking. So I'm gonna say yes and no because like me, I'm quite a transparent guy. If I have an issue, I'll actually let you
We
know.
like transparency.
You will know.
You're in the right
know.
place.
If I have an issue, just
You
trust
gonna
me.
hear his opinion.
Thank you.
You will
Like,
know
you'll
about
actually
it.
hear from me. And like, even in the Bible it says like, if your brother sins, go and point out to them and like, talk to them like 1-on-1.
Yeah.
So in that instance, if I've had an issue, I've actually spoken to the people who have hurt me and, clear and you can just solve your issues. But then it's a bit different when it comes to the platform of leadership now. Because if I'm going to be honest, from my personal opinion, I feel like, if I was to turn around and tell Nana something, next thing I know, pastor is also going to know about that. Next thing I know.
But why?
Hello.
But why?
No,
Wait,
no, obviously I was just giving an example, but I just feel like
You could have used breed. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I just feel like, it's quite hard to explain the pain that somebody might have caused you without other people getting involved as well. And I feel like for other people, it can be really off-putting not being able to have that platform to share what issues you've had with people, especially on like the topic of leadership as well.
So is limited trust in leadership.
Yeah.
No, I don't get your point, So wait, let me try and understand you. You're saying that you want to talk about your situation without having to get other people involved? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, as a side point, but it's just mainly like sometimes I feel like it's quite hard for me to say something to somebody in leadership because there's just always going to be the discrepancy in regards to like, are they going to tell somebody else? Will they keep that to themselves? Because there has been an instance for me personally where,
Right, okay.
I've
so
let
this from
something
experience.
Be, yes,
okay.
from experience. I've let
cool.
something be known, and the next thing I'm hearing it from somebody else in leadership, and it's like, why do you know that?
Yeah, okay, cool. I'm not from a leadership standpoint, this is what I'm going to say. If as a leader someone comes to tell me something, right? It depends on the thing. So let's I love contextualized conversation. I wish you could give an example because that would just make the conversation
a tricky
easier.
one still.
But just to touch on this, if a member comes to you and says so and so has happened, as a leader, sometimes, and a young leader myself, it can be overbearing for me. So you also want to go and seek counsel from the pastor of the church, because at the end of the day, he is the shepherd of the church. Now, what should happen is I should let Enoch know that, look, I think it's important. Thank you for telling me. I appreciate you doing this, but I think it's important for us to let Pastor know about this.
Yes.
So with your permission, can I do this?
Yeah.
I am not going to go ahead and go tell Pastor that, so-and-so has happened and blah, 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 without letting Enoch know. Because then that's just a breach of trust, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's important the way we handle conversations. All of these things come back to how you handle relationships with people.
Yeah.
Because if you're communicating very clearly, if Enoch speaks to me and says so and so has happened, and I don't feel comfortable with you telling Pastor, there's no way I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
Confidentiality.
Because exactly. So I think it's important that we put that conversation into context, and I can appreciate why now you would hold back sharing with leadership, but at the end of the day, if we're being honest, if you unless you don't want the situation to be resolved, because at the end of the day, these are your leaders, these are the people that God has trusted for you to be led by. So I think there needs to be a conversation of, okay, how can I trust these people better? Is that like, and I'm honestly asking you, is there a way you can end up trusting leaders in the church to be able to handle your situation better than it is currently?
I guess, for me personally, it'd be a case of I'd have to give grace first and foremost, give them the benefit of the doubt to actively put myself back into the position. But then, I quite like actions rather than words. Like, you can come up on stage and say you're going to do X, Y, Z, But sometimes I actually just want to see it like put into action.
Mm.
So like maybe not for me personally, but you know, if somebody's gone through something and I'm hearing that the church went about it in XYZ way, that in itself would open me up to actually giving grace and be like, okay, no, these guys are actually changing. So, you know, let me actually go again.
Yeah, nah, I totally agree. But the thing with trust, it takes time to build.
does.
It is a
So-
two-way
It's
street.
It's a two-way
Yeah.
situation,
Yeah,
isn't
yeah.
it? So it's gonna take time for you to see those things, but also I will always encourage people to speak up.
Yeah.
It's like people want things done without saying anything.
Yeah.
Like expectations are met because people end up
Communicating.
communicating
Yes.
them.
Tell us.
So I will appreciate transparency.
Mm.
You people are not doing well at this. So if you're in your church, wherever it is, and you expect certain things and you're not speaking to leadership, but you end up, speaking to your friends and complaining about the same things, I don't think that's fair on leadership because, like Sandra said, we're all
Let it
humans
be
and there's a
known.
lot of things that we are all juggling, right? So
Yeah.
be graceful enough to say, I'm gonna, give people the benefit of the doubt. And how you do that is having a conversation with them. If they avoid that, then you have ground to stand on to say,
Yeah.
okay, you know what, I tried.
At least you did something. And I think what tends to happen is we have this idea. We tend to separate the way we approach the working world
Yeah.
and church. Because if it's your place of work that you go for your 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, if there is an issue, you stand up and you will say,
speak to the
you have
manager.
done this to me.
Yeah.
You go to HR. Why can't we do that in church?
You might sue HR.
Honestly, if you have an issue, you're rising up.
No, that's actually a fair point.
And then
manager?
when it comes to church, I think we
Yeah.
tend to be so laid back and we expect things to happen. And also we are not so vocal because, it's church. They should know. God should tell them. No, God will use you to tell them if you have an issue, please raise it. We are still humans. We still need to have those conversations. And it's also, we are all the church. Like all of us are the church.
Yeah.
So if there's something that is on your heart, communicate it so we can all work together on it.
Yeah.
And just to kind of even add up, like, God should tell them. That's Alice is so funny because it just brought to mind. I remember there was a time like I was going through so much. And I was like, Lord, you placed me in this church. The church should be able to help. And then that Sunday,
They don't know.
that Sunday, there was a preaching on God used men to help speak. So like, honestly, just to kind of like back what you said, like it's so important for us to be like vocal about things, and that might take time, especially if you've been hurt before. You need to get to know the person, learn to trust the person. But it's like if you don't talk, like I'm not gonna be able to just assume that you're thinking A, B, C, or you want this because you've not necessarily communicating. Now, the minute you communicate that and perhaps you give it some time and things are not changing, then obviously we can have a look at it. But definitely communication is important. Like, we all need to do, but I know that I need to do better. Like I need to be more vocal. And even as Enoch you mentioned before, like if someone does something, like just go directly to the person. Just be like, hey, like, and if it doesn't go well, take a second person with you. Like there's honestly like, a way, like the Bible tells you how to approach like an issue, like if you have an issue with someone within the body of Christ, because ultimately we are here to like kind of learn from each other. We are here to support one another. So if something is not working, how can we fix it? I think it's very easy within our generation. Can't lie. Something happens, I'm packing my bags. I am
gone. You don't like feedback.
We don't like feedback. Don't bring this
We don't
again.
take
Nana.
feedback well.
You don't take feedback well.
Something happens. I feel like it's so easy for us to just give up. Like,
Why is that? Why'd you guys give up so quick?
Why did
Anyway,
you say why you guys? You're part of this generation.
Let's
First
unpack
of
this
all,
one.
He said, why do
You guys.
No, because
you're part
I'm
of that.
moved out of
I'll pay
that.
for free.
Are you-
I'll confront you. If you have an issue with me, step into my office. Let's talk.
I need to step into my office, okay? No, I feel like there's definitely a whole I can't be bothered aspect, which is kind of linked to it as well. But then I think, at least on a personal level, I guess I can't speak for everyone, but on a personal level, I realized that I used to adapt. I used to take that method a lot of, this is not my problem, as a way to actually protect myself and like kind of shelter myself, because I was like, this has happened. If I, deal with this, there's two scenarios. Either it go really well, or perhaps it
just
gets
doesn't
worse,
work.
something happens and I get her again. So as a way to like not be vulnerable and not put myself in a position where I could be hurt, I'll just remove myself right away. So that's definitely something that I had to learn and just be like, no, like, you know, there is beauty in vulnerability, and it is important for you to mature and be able to get to deal with like these, like, you know, conversations. But I can't talk for the whole generation, can I?
That's your coping mechanism, right?
Hey, you see? And
Interesting.
you gotta learn how they are. And like, honestly, I think what has really even helped is literally even having people point that out. Because sometimes I won't even realize that this is what I'm doing until someone is like, hey, you're doing it again. You know?
Yeah.
But on that, on being vulnerable and protecting your heart, you know, from the standpoint of someone who's been hurt, how do you protect your heart while still learning to be vulnerable? Because we want to come to church not just for those 2 hours of service and then dip. We want to create a community. So how do you be, you know, how can you be vulnerable and still protect yourself?
You know?
Again, they're just looking at you naturally.
So this is what happens. Let me just say this.
Question.
For all the questions we couldn't answer, we always direct it to the visiting
just
friend.
Yeah, that's crazy.
This is our coping mechanism as well.
Okay,
So
run
what do
that
you
one
think,
back.
though?
Let me think about it.
Right. No. You want me to repeat the question?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
So I'm saying,
Mm-hmm.
how can we protect our hearts but also be vulnerable in church? Especially for someone who has been hurt. How can you protect your heart and still like be in the process of learning how to be vulnerable?
So, I mean, first and foremost, I'm going to say prayer is very important. You know,
100%.
actually
Right.
having open channels with Christ to just protect you as you're going through certain things. But then I feel like it's also see, the thing with healing, it requires specifics, whereas with pain, it grows in generalities. So I think what I'm trying to say is the fact that figure out what your source of actual pain is and try to open yourself up to it. Because, you know, you can't really, it's like having a fear of something. How do you battle your fears? You embrace it. You actually just attack it head on. And it's the same thing with, you know, just being, well, the pain in itself, generally speaking.
Can I just ask you a question? What does prayer do for you in that moment?
Yeah.
It puts me at ease because sometimes when you're going through pain, you'll have all these negative, you know, emotions, anxiety. You might be nauseous. You're just feeling sick, really. It just keeps me just peaceful in itself, really, just knowing that regardless of what I'm going through, God has actually got my back.
Yeah.
So, and that's just one thing you just have to tell yourself, especially when you're going through certain things. God's always there.
Yeah.
100%. And just to add to that, I think prayer is important because, you know, if you've been betrayed by people that say they love Christ, you tend to also project Christ in the same image sometimes.
Yeah.
You tend to, you know, you may not even say it might be something that's subconscious, but you need to be able to realize that you need to go back to the Father and notice that He is a good Father who is never ever going to hurt you, who has your interests at heart, who loves you and cares about you. And for me, that looks like just, you know, just crying to God. Like, because in that moment, it's just myself and my Father, and I just want to, you know, eyes crying, you know, just, you know,
Give it all.
it's not, I've not experienced church hurt in a way that would, you know, it's you know, compared to other stories, it's like people have really gone through a lot. But in other instances where people have hurt me, that time with God is just so therapeutic in prayer. It's like you just speak into God, and it's just allowing yourself to speak to your Father and say, I'm hurt by your people. And you know, God has a way of calming you down in a way that, you know, you can't really put words to. And I love the word you use, peace, because that's what it looks like. It's just this calmness, that to say that, to reassure you that, look, I've got you. I've really got you. And that's what prayer does for me.
Yeah, and I think just to add on that, it's for anyone who's been hurt, who's been experiencing church hurt even now, to remember that God is interested in your feelings. Men may not fully understand, but God is actually interested in your feelings. Don't ever think that, oh, you know, the church has hurt me, so I can't go to God and, you know, express this hurt. But also, you know, the word says that God is close to the brokenhearted.
That's right.
So go to him. He will be close to you even through this. Even though men have hurt you in the church, that doesn't mean God has hurt you through the church.
Man, that's
Oof.
that's beautiful.
God.
Preacher, preach. Wow.
I think as Nana, mentioned Christ, one question I had is what would Christ, do in this 21st century church where there's church hurt?
Everywhere.
Wait, from Christ as the person who's hurt by the church, or what you mean?
Yes,
Yeah.
let's let's look at it as Christ hurt from the church, because really and truly, and I read this on X and I was like, ooh, that is deep. It basically said, Christ knew that the Pharisees were out to get him, and the guy still went to temple. He was still walking about. He didn't care. So,
Look, Jesus Christ is different.
I'm trying to be like Jesus.
No, not in a way. Like, I mean that in a way, in reverence.
He's fully God.
Like,
He's fully God.
He's like,
people are spitting on you as if Father forgive. I will scatter you then. Like, yo. No, like, but we all truly aspire to be like Christ.
Yeah.
And it's a journey, isn't it? It's a journey of consistently, realizing that less of me and more of Christ. Less of me and more of Christ. When it becomes more of Christ, you this might sound controversial, but you don't end up even looking at your own pain. When it becomes more of Christ, it's like
selfless.
you are selfless.
Oh, Lord.
You take feedback better.
Hey, this feedback, guys, we'll give context to this feedback one of these days, right? Nana has a specific
Story
agenda
for
when it comes to
another
feedback.
day.
We have story time for that, okay? Thank you.
Please continue.
How
would Christ?
I'm being led by the Spirit of God. I don't know about you. But no, like, we all aspire to be like Christ. And I think Christ will always, encourage us to be forgiven.
Yeah.
He says, when forgive was 77 times, 77 times. Or,
That is a mad number.
Like, and that's a day.
Just one day.
So you keep going, you keep forgiving. And you can't do that if Christ is not truly in you, if you don't have the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
For people to keep piercing you, spitting on you, put a crown of thorns on your head, and you still pray a prayer for God.
you. Can we mocking you?
He's got two thieves, one on the side, the other on the side, and it takes the Holy Spirit being in you, because there's no way in your own self you can say, I forgive this person. Like, I've seen documentaries where people forgive people that murdered their own children in the courtroom. I don't know if you've seen those videos. I'm yet to see one where the person does not acknowledge the fact that it's God allowing them. Like, it's always the fact that they see that, you know what, Christ forgave you and I also forgive you.
Forgive you. That takes a lot.
No, that
Beyond a lot.
Jesus Christ is different. And we need to be different like Jesus Christ. So yeah, it takes that consistently allowing yourself to be moved by Christ, and you can't do that in your own strength. You cannot, and that's just what it is.
Yeah, man. Especially because forgiveness, it's not easy.
You know what it is? I feel like forgiving is doable, but it's the forgetting part.
Oh no, yeah, go there.
It becomes a bit of a sticky one, I can't lie.
Especially when you're seeing the people
on a
regular basis, every Sunday.
On a regular.
And if it's leadership, they're standing on the pulpit, they're preaching, and you have to take in the message without...
Especially when they're doing preaching.
Like, after you've done something and then you literally go to church the next week and that said topic that you have issues with and they're preaching about it, hey, God will catch you.
Don't kill me. Nah, that triggers different.
Oh, it's different.
That trigger is so different.
Yeah.
But generally in this cases, I always have to remind myself, forgiveness, grace, let it go. Because it's so easy to even take offense, and just hold on to it so much that right now, it could be that really through that message that God is trying to communicate something to you, but because of how much your heart has hardened, you're not able to hear it.
You won't receive it. Yeah.
No, absolutely. It
is a
showing
hard
up
job.
every Sunday to see the person who may have hurt you, in the church, you know, and even when you're forgiving them, there are still triggers because, you know, whenever, I don't know about you guys, but people that have hurt me in my life, I don't forget about it.
How can you forget?
I mean, you deal with it, you forgive them and all that,
Yeah,
but, you know, there are
man.
always
It's
going to be
hard to
triggers. And
Yeah.
I think, you know, the enemy's always going to want to play on that. But,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
you remember what he did to you, you remember what
Yeah.
she said, you remember all
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah.
But you have to be willing to do that. And like we said, you know, it comes by allowing yourself to realize that it's Christ first.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
if I've been forgiven,
Then I
Exactly.
gotta
Exactly.
find
And it
it.
requires prayer as well. Like one thing that I really like helping was literally like putting the forgiveness and prayer together. You know when someone hurt you and now you're praying and God tells you pray for them. Come again. No,
You
because
said what?
I said
Sam.
What
me.
do you mean?
Like pray for who? Like and literally I think got to a point where like the Lord just really challenged me. Literally just set time aside. Right now I just want you to pray for them every
Yeah.
day for
That's
this
so
amount of
humbling.
days. And
So
I promise you,
humbling.
the first 2 days, my mouth wasn't even opening.
My prayer.
Silent prayer.
Mind prayer.
I pray in my head, but then I realized that the more I did it,
Yeah.
the more, man, I got to the end of it. I was like, oof, such burden had just been like
Yeah.
released, lifted off me. And I literally was able to really feel that power of prayer, being able to be like, whoa, like I've honestly let go, like whatever weight was there, like, because you've hurt me and I'm praying blessings over your life, huh? And I was like, Lord, but it was so humbling because literally, as you were saying, like
Yeah.
you kill, you know, you in a sense yourself and
Yeah.
literally become so selfless to the point where I acknowledge that you've hurt me, but I also acknowledge that forgiveness is important. And right now, I choose to forgive you the same way my Father in heaven forgave me. Man, it's a humbling experience, but so worth it because I literally now you can see the person and just be like, you know,
Yeah.
God bless you. And I mean
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
And
you
I
mean it.
And I
You
mean
mean
it.
it.
It's the meaning it that is
God
a
bless you. And then yeah, it's a side eye. No, but God bless you. And I truly mean it. And I
Yeah.
hope even having compassion, man, like I've not just forgiven you, but I now have empathy and compassion for you. And I feel for you. And I'm like, hey, I really pray that you're able to even just experience that forgiveness yourself. Because one
Right.
thing that we don't necessarily realize is especially when it comes to hurt, someone hurts you, right? Obviously you're going through it, but even the person that has hurt you, they're probably still going through it because
Yeah.
especially when they come to, I guess, Christ in a
Yeah,
sense.
okay,
So
yeah,
when
that
they
makes
come to
sense,
Christ
okay.
in a sense, it's like, you know, now they're also having to rethink their actions and just be like, oh my gosh, I did this wrong.
messed up,
I hope
yeah.
this person can forgive me. So it's really like, you know, when these people can come to Christ or just have some sort of like realization of what they've done, they generally also have some sort of way that they have to deal with. So that pain is not just caused to you, but without
Yeah.
realizing they're causing that to themselves as well. So literally just releasing people and just be like, hey, you know, I let go and I let God.
Yeah.
Time, prayer, lots of prayer.
To be honest, I do have a question though. Because obviously right now in terms of pain, we've been talking on more of like a one-to-one basis.
Yeah.
But how would you go against it if, you know, it's more on a general consensus? So like, let's say for example, I tried to invite somebody to church and they turned around and was like, no, thank you. You go to an African church, quote unquote. So it's like, you know, they're identifying.
The label.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, how would you actually go about that?
Wait,
Y'all
wait.
looking at me?
Nah,
Yeah, 'cause-
wait, you invited someone to church.
Yes.
And they said, oh no, you go to an African church, I'm not interested.
Mm-hmm.
And wait, and what's the issue?
Oh, well.
No, I'm trying to understand. Like,
Nah,
wrong with
so when it
the
comes
person's
to-
not interested.
when it comes to quote unquote African churches,
Yeah.
there's a certain stigma that I'm even
Oh,
going to
now
point
you get into
out.
the issue itself.
Yeah, like
get to it.
the older generation, if I'm even going to go there, like to, you know, throw into church as well. I even have stories like for me, for example.
Go there.
So obviously, you know, I came to church. The trim was tantalizing. Today we're wearing cap.
It
because
was
it's not there.
given.
It's not there. And I actually seen a family friend, and you know, he spoke to me. He was like, "Oh, hello, hi, all of that," and I was like, "Oh, nice guy. It's been a while." You know, kept it stepping. Next thing I know, I get a call from my dad later on that day, and he was like, "Did you say something to XYZ?" And I was like, "No, why?" And he was just telling me how, you know, he's speaking to my dad, and it's like, what's going on with Enoch? Why has he done his hair like this? Is he a gangster?
He's
All of
going
that.
wayward.
And I was really thinking, I didn't know the Bible said, now that I've braided my hair, I'm a gangster. I'm shooting in the streets.
Even Samson.
And
His glory.
and it's just like little
Yeah.
things like
Samson
that.
being
confused.
But then it's like, you know that others actually have that same thought process as well.
Yeah.
And then, it's just encompassing the whole church.
Wait, you're saying that person's point of view encompasses the whole church?
Well, the members of the church would actually think the same as well. There's other instances as well where people have made mentions of my hair from, said category. But it's like, that's just an example that I gave.
Oh, wow. How'd you deal with that?
Ooh. Do you know what?
Did you have conversations with everyone?
Nah, I
speak
didn't.
with them?
For me personally, because it did put me off going church for a while, to be honest, because what am I actually wasting my time here for? It was actually my mother. She just sat me down. We spoke, we prayed, and one point really stood, and it's like, church is actually vital. In the Bible, it explains it as Jesus' body and the place where God actually dwells. And like, for me personally, as she was seeing me grow, like, grow in my spiritual journey as well, it was just necessary for me to be there to actually just, become a better Christian. And, spread the good news, because that's what we're here for, right?
Wow.
But, yeah. Rate your mothers, guys. They do well.
Yeah.
Shout out, Mumsy.
No, but I'm glad you went. That came out
Not
wrong.
glad-
That came
we are
out
not
wrong.
glad you
I
went through that.
mean, what I mean.
We are not glad
Presiding.
you went
I'm
through
glad.
church
I'm happy you address that situation and you're
Yeah.
still in
Yeah.
the church.
Yeah.
It's like not everyone. Some people might have just left and not come back. And it's good that your mom was able to support you through that phase and have those conversations with you, because not everyone gets that support as well. So
Wise
definitely-
counsel is very important,
Yeah.
especially when you're hurt.
Yeah.
You need somebody outside of the situation to step in and help you. Because, yes, you need prayer, but God works through men. So, I think I was going to ask, what advice would you give to someone who's going through church pain? And I was going to say, seek someone outside of yourself who can give you wise counsel. But, guys,
what would you say?
advice
That
for
you give
someone
to
who's
someone?
currently going through church pain.
Okay.
Enoch should start then, because
Yeah.
I should
he
start.
been through it.
Huh.
He been through it.
I guess it's just a summary of some of the points that we spoke about. So, firstly, confront the person, like, let them know what they've done on a one-to-one basis. Don't go putting it on social memedia that XY. That's actually another topic. I'm not gonna lie. Oh, I'll touch that one.
Party.
That XYZ has done this to you. Just speak to them, see what they're about to say, and make sure, even if you're going into it, like, come with a forgiving heart, and that comes through prayer, because God forgave you for your sins. So why can't you forgive your brother? So pray hard, and then come to a place of where you can just forgive the person as well. But make sure to actively point out the specifics in terms of where the hurt actually came from, because that's how healing begins.
Yeah. That's something that's very beautiful, because I think it's really important to acknowledge the pain first and just be like, hey, this has happened. This was wrong. This shouldn't have happened. And I think, as you're saying, once you're able to acknowledge the pain, then you're able to kind of start that whole process of healing. Because if you go through it and it's like, hey, you don't even see that for whatever reason you create some sort of like a bubble where you fail to acknowledge that this has happened, then like, when do you start that healing process? I think it's really important to acknowledge that pain, and also like literally like not allowing that to be the reason why you stop desiring a community, or you stop wanting even to be in like God's presence. Because as we mentioned, it is hard, but it's really important for you to not isolate yourself. And then finally, like, wise counsel, like, I know we said it, but it's really, really important to like have people around you who are going to be able to like literally like help you out throughout the whole stage, from, I guess, church hurt to restoration or redemption or whatever term we want to use for that. But that's what I would say, really.
Yeah. Well, I need to add to all that.
If you want to, if not, we can wrap up.
No, I think it sums up everything that we've discussed well. Just going back to Bree's original point, learn to separate God from the vessels that He's using. Learn to separate God from the vessels that He's using. I don't want to what's the word? What's the English? It's not I want to be careful because someone might be watching this and going through a lot of deep pain right now.
Yeah.
And so, like I said in the beginning, there's levels to this. For some people, it's just, okay, person A said this about me, I don't like her, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But for some people, it's really abuse.
Yeah.
You've been exploited in
Some
the
people have been
church.
exploited.
Yeah.
So it's really deep like that. But for whoever is watching this and has experienced that or is experiencing that, I really pray that Christ would help you get into that position where you can separate him, Christ, from the people that hurt
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
We truly empathize with you and the pain you've been through, but just really know that Christ loves you,
Yeah.
and Christ would never ever do that to you. And
Yeah.
we acknowledge God as a good father.
Yeah.
And a good father would never ever do that to you. And
Yeah.
if you are in that space, do say a prayer, do cry out to your father and say, Father, I am hurt.
Yeah.
Be honest and completely honest with God and say, this is the position that I find myself in. And him being a good father, there's no way he's not going to step in.
Yes.
There's no way that you're going to pray a prayer that is so honest with a heart that says that, God, I want to be helped.
Yeah.
I want to be helped. God would never refuse you if you say, I want to be held by you.
Yeah.
So no matter how deep your pain is, I really hope that you can spend some time with God and say, Father, I really want to pursue you, but your vessels, some of the vessels that I've experienced have just been a mess. And I really pray that you will connect me with people that truly love you, that can help me see you the way you want to be seen. So that's really my prayer for everyone who's watching this and has experienced this. And that's all I'll say.
Wow.
Thank
It's really,
you guys.
holding
The
that-
wisdom is
the title of presiding is really coming through.
the wisdom is,
Y'all doing
but no,
too
God
much.
bless you guys
Y'all
for
doing too
sharing.
much.
I think the last thing I was gonna say is, the word says that Jesus went through all kinds of suffering. He's borne all kinds of suffering on himself. So he is the one that can empathize the most with you.
Yeah.
So go to God, and also in your own time, we just want to encourage everyone, especially those that have been through church hurt, to seek a Bible-believing church to, start this restoration process, because you can start it in your own, but if then you just don't find community, you'll just go back and allow the enemy to just come and be tossing you left and right. So find a Bible-believing church and Holy Spirit-filled church as well. And if you're in Manchester and you're looking for a
Hey,
church,
you're welcome. You're
Hey.
welcome. You're welcome. You're
how
welcome.
do you do? You are invited
Welcome.
to Piccadilly PIWC.
That's
We want to
right.
see you. We want to
Yeah.
connect with you. We are not perfect, but God is with us, and we're building a family, and we want you to be part of it.
Yeah.
And
Come join us.
also, if you are a uni student in the UK, we have about right now 44, but it's growing.
We're on 44
ministries.
campuses.
We are on 44
that's
campuses
huge.
right now in the UK.
That's right.
Big
And
numbers.
so we are called we're called PENSA, which stands for Pentecost Students and Associates.
That was
That
crazy.
was
Pensa
The
president.
pressure on my head, but yes. Pentecost Students and Associates.
Wow.
We are currently on 44 campuses in the UK. You
Yeah,
can search
that's up.
on Instagram, Pensa UK, and we'll be able to direct you to the Pensa in your campus. They fellowship every week. We have, we discuss various topics. We come to fellowship and to grow as uni students. So yeah, that is all from me. Thank you to our friend.
Come
Come
on.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me.
Let's give it up.
Stop it. I'm shy.
Come on.
Nah,
you so
man.
much
No,
for joining
honestly,
us.
thanks for being
God
transparent.
bless you.
And
Yes.
yeah. And if you're watching this and you're in Manchester, you've been through church, maybe you can see.
Stephen's
be-
Marcus,
Coffee date.
let's talk.
Coffee date.
You can be a church
Nah, not
consultant.
coffee. I'll do Capri Suns though,
Oh,
not
he
coffee.
doesn't do coffee.
I like
Oh,
coffee.
childish.
Capri
Childish.
Suns.
Capri Suns.
But
Next
thank
time,
Capri
you.
man.
Suns.
Definitely part 2 is needed because there is more to dive in. But yeah, thank you so much. God bless
Thank you.
All right,
And that is
people.
it for us. We will see you later. Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Let's go.